Hey, what's going on YouTube? Acro Breeder here, and this is my update for January 2021. This is my 40-gallon breeder, drilled, custom stand, custom rock work, predominantly acropora, and 8 cans, or I guess the technical term now is micro lords. Forgive me. I did just recently re-aquascape this tank. It was completely choked out with large coral colonies, and I removed them with the aquascape, and I'm going with some different varieties of acropora. Polyp extension and coloration on this tank is the best of the 4 systems I have at the moment, even following the re-aquascape where I removed almost all the rock and replaced it with essentially concrete rock. Actually, this morning I did unfortunately lose one of my snowflake clowns. It was enormous. I'm assuming it passed away due to obesity. I'm not joking. The fish was about as wide as it was long. It was the male. The female is, doing well. The male had become lethargic and just looked extremely bloated. It was sad to see him go after, I think, about 4 years. So it's been a rough month for me, losing one of my prized pets. So just kind of working through that. It's a little bit of a setback. Other than that, everything in this system is in order. I did introduce balling solution from Tropic Marin due to the information and recommendation of bulk reef supply. I do a gallon per day auto water change to combat the salinity imbalance in adding 2-part. But the information provided by bulk reef really did make sense. Essentially, balling solution is a salt-free salt to combat the sodium increase from the byproduct of 2-part. So that's kind of what's new here with all my systems this month. There was a little bit of a mishap involved in introducing that in my 75. I'll get to that when I'm on that system. I'll just do some close-ups here, some of the corals. I've had this orange passion now for, I don't know, 6 months, and it's just not going anywhere. It's pretty frustrating. The coloration is nice. I just can't get it to budge. That is the drawback of micro frags. I really like to encourage people to do decent sized frags to where you're not waiting 6 months for it to even be anything. So that's that. On to the next system. 40 Fusion Seahorse tank, unfortunately no longer is a Seahorse tank. After about 2 years, my ORA captive bred tiger tail seahorses passed away. I'm assuming due to old age. From my research, I've gathered that's a typical lifespan in captivity. It was really sad to see them go. They did pass away within only about 5 days of each other. So that was a little hard to deal with, but otherwise this tank is doing well. I did add a algae blenny, so that is the only inhabitant besides the cleanup crew and corals. All the zoanthid polyps are open, continuing to improve. I added a piece of Bali green slimer just to combat my sort of mysterious increase of alkalinity on this system. It's up to about 10 DKH on the alkalinity. I want to do a water change here and try to bring it down a little bit. I have heard a little bit of talk recently about amino acids possibly increasing alkalinity. I need to do a little more research. I don't really understand the chemistry behind that, if it's a acid reaction or there's actually alkalinity in the bottle. So maybe some of you have some more information on that. Feel free to share that with me. Let's do a few close-ups here of the corals. The Gorgonian is growing nice. And all the zoanthids are starting to spread. Got a few here on a frag rack. I did pick up Palithoa grandis. I have it down here on a rock by itself to isolate it from the structure. Overall, everything's doing well here. I got to think about a stocking list for this tank. I don't think I'm going to go back with Seahorses. They are very limiting in what you can stock the tank with, and the feeding, requirements, 2 to 3 feedings a day minimum. It's a lot of work. So I don't know, after my experience, I would recommend it, but it was enjoyable while it lasted. I'm thinking something more like designer clownfish. We'll see what I figure out. 75 Peninsula. A few struggles here in this past month with it. I did have a alkalinity spike following a alkalinity drop to almost 2.5 DKH is what I was reading on my API alkalinity test kit. I recently introduced the balling method, and in a container swap on the alkalinity, I mistakenly added the balling solution for almost a week, and surprisingly, getting below 3 DKH, I had no losses. I did see reduced polyp extension on the acroporas. That's what initially caused me to look in to what could possibly be going wrong, and luckily I was able to figure it out within a week or so. So nothing too drastic happened. Like on this millipore, the polyps are pretty tight. In the past, they've been probably triple this extension. So due to the alkalinity dip and then spike, the coral stopped pulling in nutrients, and I had an algae outbreak. So now my rocks are pretty loaded up with algae. I've dosed fluconazole about a week ago, and it is starting to recede. So, even after being in the hobby for 5 years, I still make these simple mistakes. It's kind of crazy to think I got down all the way to 2.5, 3 DKH. It just goes to show how resilient these corals really are. And as long as you get most things right, there is some room for error. But if you're starting off with unhealthy corals to begin with and you go down to 3 DKH, there's going to be a drastic event for sure. Do a few close-ups here. You can even see there's a little bit of diatom action going on as a result of the fluconazole dissolving the algae. I will admit I don't know exactly how it works, but it definitely works. And I did lose the yellow coloration in my yellow hammer. It was much more green than this a few weeks ago. It is improving. So that's good. It's back on a good course. After much delay in this hobby, I've decided to implement a fish quarantine system. It is recommended by most hobbyists for the safest method of introducing recently purchased fish into existing systems. I've really put this off, but I finally got to it, and this is what I got: a 29-gallon tall, a lid from Petco, and an Aqua Clear 70. It has a sponge and some ceramic media. I have a small heater that's auto set at 78 degrees, some PVC pipes, a nice plastic, throwback plant there. Custom built a wood stand from standard 2x4s and 3/4 inch plywood. Got a power strip under here, protected from any moisture. timer for the light. So I've just been adding some food here, getting the cycle process going. Different fish require different quarantine processes. Some medication, some wrasses aren't able to take it. So it may just be observation depending on the species. So I'm going to give it a good month or two and let it get nice and cycled before I purchase any fish. That's it for that. 80-gallon frag system, finally mature. The issues I was experiencing with diatoms that most of us experience, starting systems with dead, dry, live rock and no sand, did work themselves out after a discovery of an error on my part. I did implement a UV sterilizer upon setting up the system, but I did not check to see if the bulb was operating, and it turns out it was not. So quickly after replacing it, the diatoms did work themselves out quickly. I did experience a little bit of cyanobacteria and hair algae, but after regulating my feeding and nitrate and phosphate dosing, that did also subside. So just some time and further inspection of this system went a long way. All the inhabitants are happy and healthy. There was no losses there. So it's nice to see everything working out here. I am running the sump on a reverse lighting schedule to help regulate pH at night when the main display is off. And it's just nice to have this real estate to hold colonies from other tanks temporarily to find, them a home. So that was kind of a struggle in the past. I wanted to remove colonies, but I had nowhere to put them temporarily. So now I got a nice system to do that. I just got a nice lineup here of frags, testing the waters. I'm going to give it a good couple of weeks before I start adding anything else. So that's really all I got this month. I'm sorry I was a little late on my update. I'm in the middle of doing some home renovations, painting the exterior of my home, etc. There is a frag swap coming up February 6th in Lakeland, Florida. Hopefully I'll see some of you guys there.